I think we're going to start now. Okay. Now, I'd like to welcome you all to Aveiro and to the final international conference of the project Cismob. We will start the opening session beginning with the scientific coordinator of the project, Mr. Jorge Bandeira.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the final conference of Cismob. This project started almost 4 years ago. It's time now to present some results, some outcomes of the interregional cooperation. First of all, I would like to thank the presence of the Director of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Robert Valente, the Vice-Rector, Eduardo Anselmo, and of course the Secretary of State of Mobility, Eduardo Pinheiro. It's an honor to welcome you here in this conference. I would like also to thank all speakers that accepted our invitation, all partners and that traveled from different countries of Europe, and also, of course, my colleagues. Just to have in 5 minutes highlight of project objectives to the people that doesn't know yet what was our targets. Our main vision as all Interreg Europe projects is to improve policy. Our specific objective was improving policy instruments to take advantage of information and communication technology to increase the efficiency in the use of transport networks. We are a consortium of 6 partners from Sweden, the Stockholm University, in Romania, the ITS Romania, and the Bucharest and Ilfov Intermunicipal Transport Association, the Agenex Energy of Extremadura in Spain, here in Portugal, the municipality of Aveiro, and the University of Aveiro. As you can see, we are partners from different countries with very different characteristics in terms of development of ICT in the transport networks, and these partners also with a different profile, which enable cross-fertilization of ideas and expertise, have result in tangible results in all regions, as you can see. Overall, in these 4 years, we organized more than 30 exchange of experience events, which includes thematic conferences, building capacity workshops, staff exchanges, technical visits, in which more than 1,000 participations, more than 100 people reported increased professional capacity, more than 75 institutions, including universities, industry, ICT companies, transport operators, SMEs, local and regional authorities, environmental associations participated regularly in regional stakeholder meetings that took place each semester in each region of the consortium. We are proud of many things during these 4 years. Cismob was the first project in which a pilot action was approved by the Joint Technical Secretariat. We are also proud because the last year we were nominated for Regional Stars Awards in 2019. We were one of the 3 projects of Interreg Europe that were selected and nominated for this for Regional Stars. We also generated a lot of interesting documents and outputs, 9 technical papers, a baseline assessment report doing the characterization of all regions about the the status of transport networks and the penetration of ICT, and also an agenda that is free for download in our website, ICT towards low carbon and sustainable mobility, a multi-scale perspective. All these outputs enable to develop 4 action plans. That was the main objective of our project, with the aim of policy improvement. These are the 4 policy instruments that we have addressed. Here in Portugal, the Operational Program Centre 2020, in Aveiro, the Sustainable Mobility Strategy for the municipality of Aveiro, in Romania, the Romanian Operational Program, and Extremadura, the Extremadura Operational Program for 2020. The objective of this conference is to show you and to share the main achievements that were made with the aim of the final goal of have some territorial impact in all these regions of the consortium, which have in total more than 23 million people, and you expect that a significant part of them will be positively influenced by the project outcomes. Thank you so much, and especially thank you, my acknowledgement to all the people from the University of Aveiro that worked in the project, from the professors to my colleagues, and the administrative staff from the university and the department. Thank you.
Now calling to the stage, we would like to hear from the Director of Mechanical Engineering Department, Mr. Roberto Valente.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for the kind invitation for having me here today. For some of you, it's nice to see you again. For others, welcome, and it's a pleasure to receive you in our university. And I will talk. It's quite a difficult and challenging speech because I'm here in the position of director of the Department of Mechanical Engineering. But I'm also personally follow for many years from now all the dynamics of the transportation technology group within our department, our research unit, and it's quite a pleasure also, therefore, from the personal point of view, to be here and to see this ending and wrap up of all the efforts of this group, and particularly within this project. In our department, we have quite a big number of different areas, and transportation and mobility is one of the key areas for strategical reasons for the region, for the country, for the European Community framework. So it's a big pleasure to see this point and to attend here and see this success. I'm quite interested to see, and I will try to attend as much as possible during the afternoon, mainly for the sessions, because I'm quite interested to see the impacts of this project within the regional and also national levels. Within the new framework for European Commission funding, we now have the education, the research and the innovation all together. So this project, I think it's a good proof, is a reliable proof that these aspects can be combined. And for instance, in my case, and particularly for the department, the education part is also some kind of impact measure from these kind of activities. Not directly related to the project, but indirectly related to it, since the people that are making it dynamic are the same. So I can mention, for instance, the new program, the new master program on smart mobility that was submitted 1 month ago, roughly, to the rectory, which is something that, it's another pillar of this area of innovation and research, now combining the education part and the impact of this kind of initiatives and this kind of activities in our education system. most of all, I'm quite interested to see this impact also in the regional level. I'm glad to know that there are subsequent projects that are now being promoted and have already started, following up this initiative, which is a very important level of the commitment of the people from this university, together with our partners, you that are part of the project, this project and subsequent projects. So from both my personal point of view, following up the evolution of this research group, together with our research unit and our department, it's a big pleasure once again to be here. On my behalf, I also invite you, if you have the chance, to walk and see our Department of Mechanical Engineering. It's quite close. It's a nice campus, and without raining, it's a 2 minutes walk. So if you have the chance, just to stretch the legs in the afternoon also, or during the meanwhile in the lunch, please be welcome. Thank you for your commitment once again. I wish you all the success in the subsequent projects, European projects, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I welcome our University of Aveiro Vice Rector, Mr. Eduardo São Castro, to the stage.
Good morning to everybody, and special thanks to our Secretary of State of Mobility. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. You are all very welcome to the University of Aveiro, and I only want to say a few words. The stresses on mobility changed recently, but they're old ones. Some 10 years ago, everybody was scared because there was not enough oil. Then it was when everybody was speaking about the oil peak and things like that, we're going to run out of oil, and the big problem for mobility. Now, the scale is not this one, is too much CO2, but the consequences are the same. We have to look at mobility and to the sources of energy. And there is also an old discussion, which is more from my field of interest, is mobility and communications, are they complementary or substitutable? Do they make synergy? The more you have from one, the more you have from the other, or can they be substituted? It's a very interesting and difficult discussion, very difficult to have. There are many opinions. But we are in a different level of discussion, which in my opinion is much more interesting. Is using telecommunications, information technology, not to substitute transport, but to make transport much more efficient and using less energy. For the same amount of transport, less energy. I think this is a very interesting and important issue. And this university is especially well prepared for this thing, because this is a combination of engineering and mechanics engineering, environmental engineering and telecommunications engineering. And it happens that this university is very strong, in some cases pioneer, in all these three types of knowledge. So we are in a place which is very well endowed for this sort of studies. I also want to say that this is an important general discussion, but in particular I want to stress two fields where this is important. We are a university with three campuses, one here, other in Águeda and other in Oliveira das Meias. Even the campus here is being spread, and if you consider also the science park, it stretches for 3 or 4 kilometers. So now the problem of transport, of mobility between these different parts is very important, and I hope that this sort of expertise in information technology, environment engineering and mechanical engineering can make together a contribution for this. Other thing which is very important and I'm personally involved in is to look at the development of the border region, interior Portugal and border region with Spain. In general, borders in Europe are places of connection, of economic development. For example, between Germany and France, Germany and Switzerland, so these borders are sometimes the most developed parts of Europe. Here is the opposite. The border between Portugal and Spain is includes the most aging parts, population aging parts of all Europe. If you look at all the nursery regions in Europe, which are a few thousand, and you look at the 12 worst regions in terms of aging, these 12, 6 are Portuguese on the border, at the border, and 3 are Spanish regions on the other side of the border. So it's very important to counteract this, and there are many measures which should be taken, but transport and mobility is essential. Transport and mobility in low-density areas, for example, mobility for schools, transporting, because a lot of schools were closed because they're running out of students, and it's necessary to transport kids from big distances to the schools. So this makes huge cost for municipalities and a very important field for improving and making it more efficient. Using several transport means, cars which are stopped for 90% of the time can be used for different uses. It's a problem of rules and regulation and so on. It's a difficult one, should be done. Optimizing the time and the paths of the transport means and so on. This is a very interesting problem which must be solved. And also connecting two systems of transport and two legal systems, the Spanish and the Portuguese one, to make something which works together and makes it much more efficient. So I gave two examples. I couldn't stay here to speaking about 1,000 examples of the importance of use of information technologies to make transport and mobility more efficient. So this is a very key subject, and congratulations for this project.
Now I will call to the stage the Secretary of State of Mobility, Mr. Eduardo Pinheiro.
Good morning, everybody. Mr. Eduardo Anselmo Castro, Mr. Jorge Bandeira, Mr. Robert Valente. I'd like to greet all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, of course, for having me. I'm very pleased to be here in this opening session as a representative of the Portuguese government. And as has been said at the conference with such an important subject for our common future, as I said, I was talking before this session, this as a symbolic, it will always be a symbolic day for me, because I started as Secretary of Mobility, Secretary of State of Mobility, and the last 2 weeks I have been closed in my office with lots of meetings, and this is my first appearance as Secretary of State, and so I will always remember this first day in this new venture, I can say. And I have another thing to say. That was in Aveiro that I started dating with my wife, and so it's important place too. As we all know, fighting climate change is urgent. It's not novel. Climate change is now affecting everyone in every place in the world. And the world, as we now know it, is changing incredibly quickly. And there are serious environmental challenges that we have probably for the first time to face. Weather patterns are changing, sea levels are rising, weather events are becoming more extreme, and the greenhouse gas emissions are now at their highest levels in history. As you might know, Portugal has committed itself internationally to the goal of reducing its greenhouse gas emissions so that the balance between emissions and removals from the atmosphere equals zero by 2050. This goal of carbon neutrality was translated in the approval of the Portuguese guidelines for carbon neutrality 2050. It shows our desire to implement a real revolution in mobility and transport, and we need to achieve it fast. We all recognize that mobility is crucial to the social and economic development of cities. It provides access to jobs and schools, like the Vice Rector said, facilitates people's contact with service and information, delivers products, facilitates business, allows for socialization, provides access to healthcare service, and gives a sense of personal freedom to individuals around the world. It's a major aspect of territorial cohesion. However, as we know, mobility and transport activities have an enormous, huge environmental impact. The transport sector is one of the main national air pollution emitters and is the sector with the highest growth in emissions in recent decades. In Portugal, road transport itself accounted for 24% for CO2 emissions in 2050. Besides air pollution, the transport sector has other negative impacts such as noise pollution, waste production, and road accidents. Furthermore, the transport infrastructure consumes financial and natural resources and accounts for the fragmentation of ecosystems. And so, how can we address these problems without hindering the crucial role of mobility? The Portuguese guidelines for carbon neutrality for 2050 identify the following aspects as the main decarbonization drivers in the transport sector. First, greater efficiency and reinforcement of the public transport systems. Second, active and low-impact mobility. Third, greater efficiency associated with shared mobility and autonomous vehicles. Four, electrification. And last one, biofuels and hydrogen. So how have these drivers been addressed by the Portuguese government? In the last few years, the Portuguese government has been implementing a series of measures especially focused on those drivers. The main examples being the program for the reduction of public transport fares aimed at decreasing transport costs for people, enhancing social cohesion, and promoting the use of public transport. A set of measures to facilitate the supply of public transport, such as the expansion of metro networks and financial support for the renovation of bus and shared fleets. Measures to enhance the attractiveness of public transport through the implementation of simple fares and easier to use ticketing systems. The publication of the National Strategy for Active Mobility, which set the goal to increasing the modal share of bicycle trips for 1% to 7.5% over a 10-year period. The promotion of cleaner technology vehicles with a strong emphasis on electric mobility through a program of incentives and tax benefits for the use of electric and hybrid vehicles by families and companies. A program for replacing existing polluting fleets with electric vehicles in the public administration. Through MOBIE, or MOBIE in English, we have been developing a nationwide charging network and interface system and have passed electric mobility legislation in order to widen scope, increase competition, and stimulate the creation of private charging points. The creation of a regulation framework for innovative and shared mobility solutions like bike sharing and on-demand transport platforms, what was lots of times called the Uber law. Last but not the least, we have been granting financial support for public transport companies to buy cleaner, gas-powered and electric buses. Additionally, as in the Cismob project, the government has joined the local governments in pursuing the decarbonization of economy, creating the living labs for decarbonization. This is a project that I know very well because before I'm Secretary of State, I was Vice Mayor of one of the cities of Portugal, so I was in the other side, I can say that. A project that started last year and has been implemented in several municipalities. It consisted of in a contest where each municipality had to present an idea for an innovative project concerning specific locations and operating areas, and always bearing in mind the priority pillars of mobility, energy and buildings, or circular economy and environment. The application of this project has been a huge success, special as it meets the population's needs and implements innovating and technological projects in mobility area. And so, how can ICT help us pursue the decarbonization to mobility sector? I'm sure today we're going to have important answers for this question. I have no doubt about it. It's very important to share and learn best practices. We are aware of the fast development of ICT, mainly connected to the spreading use of internet and smartphones, that led to the production of huge amounts of data. And this has created an opportunity to make use of such technologies in the mobility sector. Therefore, we want to stimulate strong partnerships between the mobility sector and knowledge centers to foster R&D for the development of innovative technology-based solutions that can help us to enhance seamless intermodality, efficiently manage mobility systems, and to better adjust the mobility options to the territory they intend to serve. I would say that we have to plan for people in an integrated approach based on partnership, in using all the resources of technology and knowledge. R&D plays a key role in achieving our goals, and make the best decisions, and of course, we are counting on you. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we'll start with the yes.
Okay.
If possible, I would like to invite Verena Prim. It's a policy officer of Interreg Europe in Lille.
So, yeah, good morning to everyone also from my side. I'm Verena Pien. I'm working as a policy officer for the Interact Europe program, so the program that finances the Cismob project. Yeah, our offices are located in Lille in northern France, and yeah, it was a pleasure to come here. I remember like a couple of years ago, I already came to this area to visit my sister. I was studying in the Aveiro University at this time, so I'm really happy to be back. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Yeah, so I wanted to just give you a little bit of an insight to the program, so what we actually do, how the program works, so that you can, let's say, frame a little bit more the context and the Cismob project. So Interact Europe is a program that we consider ourselves as an accelerator for regional development. So what we mean by this is that there's many regional or local authorities all over Europe that struggle with let's say, regional development issues, in terms in the area of transport, but also in other thematic fields. And we enable them to seek for good experience, like successful experience in other areas of Europe, to learn from peers, and to implement the good practices on the ground. So to do this, we have a budget of roughly 259 million euros for a 7 years period. So the program runs from 2014 until 2020. And we have 30 countries involved, so all EU countries, and also we have Switzerland and Norway as associated countries. And the program covers the 4 thematic areas that you can see here. The first is research and innovation. Second is the SME competitiveness, so how to foster the small and medium-sized enterprises. Then we have the topic of low carbon economy, under which also the Cismob project fits. So low carbon economy entails, let's say, questions related to energy efficiency, renewable energies, but also transport, because we heard already this morning that transport also plays a big role when we talk about decarbonizing our economies. And last but not least, we have also the topic of environment and resource efficiency, and there we cover questions related to cultural heritage, but also resource efficiency, water management, land management, and so on. So the program is at the heart of the EU cohesion policy. We have this particular focus on improving the policies. It was already said in the morning by Georgian. So at the very beginning, each project partner that wants to apply has to tell us the exact challenge, what they want to achieve, and they have to identify a policy instrument, a public policy that they want to improve. And we have this particular focus on the structural funds, meaning that the regions are, we try to help them to make best use of the EU funds that they have. So the European Regional Development Funds, as you all know, it's one of the biggest funding sources, and all the regions in Europe have some of those funds, and we try to help them to make best use of them. Yes, we have also in the program a very good mix of the more and less developed regions. So when it comes to the economic GDP, economic value, and we have also quite a balance or good participation of peripheral regions, because these are often those that are a little bit left behind when we look at the statistics of the cohesion policy. So this is of course also important for us to see this to see these regions participate in the program. Of course, we are focusing on, we really want to see what are the needs of the regions that participate in the program, and therefore we also have, let's say this feature of the stakeholder group. It was also already mentioned this morning. All the project partners, are setting up a stakeholder group, so they're really trying to identify those people and institutions that have a stake, that have an interest, that should be involved, so that later on, when it comes to implementing the lessons learned, there's no blockers, let's say, because it's of course important to talk to all the politicians, to all the institutions that are involved. And then, in the project, the project always is structured in 2 phases. So first is the exchange of experience phase, and then I'm sure we're going to learn, hear a little bit more about it, how it was carried out in the Cismob project. And then after 3 years, in this case it was 3 years, 2 years, sorry, after 2 years, there's a second phase. So every partner set up an action plan, so they really detail what lessons they learned in the exchange of experience and what they want to do and how and with whom, and in what time frame, what they want to do, what they want to achieve in the region. Now the implementation of the action plans is started 1.5 years ago. Yeah, more or less. So thanks. So we have already some interesting results. We will learn about it more during the day. And I think there's some exciting stuff actually to tell. So a little bit more in detail what the program is doing, Integrate Europe. So we have on the one hand the regional cooperation projects, and then we have on the other hand the policy learning platform. I will give you now an overview of the project that we have approved so far. So there has been 4 calls for proposals in the program, and in these 4 calls we approved a total of 258 projects, so across the 4 different thematic areas. These projects cover more than 2,000 partners from all over Europe, 30 countries, and also we cover 88% of all the NUTS 2 regions. So this is to tell you that the participation is really well spread, and it doesn't focus on like only some regions or the most powerful regions. Really, we have partners in every country, and like not from all the regions, but from 88%. So I think it's not too bad, and we're actually quite proud of this. Also, we have 25% of managing authorities directly involved in the project. When I say managing authority, I'm referring to those authorities that are managing the structural funds, so the European Regional Development Funds dedicated for every region. And of course, we have much more, let's say, managing authorities that are involved indirectly because they are part of the stakeholder groups. Total budget of these 258 approved projects is of 322 million euro. So this is how the project spread along the 4 thematic areas, so it's pretty balanced. As you could see, I mentioned it. Oops. Cismob is part of the low carbon economy, so 1 out of 60 projects in this thematic project. So far 93 projects finished phase 1, so this is, let's say, what we took to compile the statistics about the results. And these projects, altogether they identified more than 2,100 good practices. All these good practices can be seen on the website of the project, and let's say we have also set up a good practice database that is linked to the policy learning platform, where our experts give some extra, let's say, analysis. These projects, thanks to these projects, we have already 5,800 staff members that increase their capacities. This is one of the, let's say, output indicators of the program, where we ask the project and the project partners to measure in how far the people that are involved in the project actually increase their capacity, and we try to measure the learning. These projects altogether produce 380 action plans. So 380 action plans where everyone details one or several actions, what's going to happen. And during phase 2, when the project starts to implement these action plans, we're also trying to monitor and to see if they are succeeding. On this slide we can see the policy changes that already happened so far. So 92 policy changes happened already so far, thanks to 69 projects, meaning that 69 projects already reported to us a policy change. And these figures are obviously, let's say, changing, pretty much every day. It's also, now I have them validated as of June 2019. There's always a little bit of delay in the sense that what is happening on the ground, we only learn about it afterwards when the project partner report to us, to the program secretariat. So this explains a little bit the delay, but it's just to give you an idea. With these 92 policy changes that relate to growth and jobs, and then 43 policy changes that relate to other policy instruments, we have seen that a total of 265 million euro have already been influenced. And this figure, I mean, it may seem huge to you, or maybe not, but what I want to emphasize here is that we are really monitoring very closely, and it's obviously not easy to monitor and to, let's say, see the impact that is of funds that was really impacted thanks to the action of the project as such. So we are looking forward to see this figure increasing in the next months and years, when more projects will come to phase 2 and to actually implement the actions and actually improve the policy instruments. So that was a lot of figures. Forget them all. I want you to remember one figure. So when we look at those projects, 69 projects already managed to improve the policy instrument. And so that's the second pillar of the program. Next to the projects, we have the policy learning platform. What is a policy learning platform? In a nutshell, well, it's a free of charge service to anyone that is involved in regional development in Europe and well, possibly even beyond. So I mentioned this, we have the good practice database. So all the good practices that the projects identify, they submit them to us. And there's kind of a, let's say, pre-selection we do. And then, the most relevant or the most interesting or the most, let's say, successful good practices, they will be featured also in the good practice database. It's a policy learning platform. And we have, a team of experts that will further analyze the good practices, put them together with other practitioners and so on. So if you're interested, please have a look. You can also become a member of the community, because we have this community of peers, already 16,000 members all over Europe. So if you do not have your profile yet, you're more than welcome to join. It works pretty much like any other social network, so you can create your profile. And the idea is obviously that you give, let's say, as much detail as you want, but the more the better, about your professional capacity, your field of expertise, your background, so that you can look for people, for peers, for instance, if you're looking for, you're facing a particular challenge in your institution or your region, and you want to look for someone that has certain capacities, you can, let's say, try to find those people, those peers, thanks to our community. We also do organize peer reviews. So even like, let's say, beyond the idea of looking for the peers and contacting them, writing a message, hey, I'm struggling with this, I've seen that you have implemented this good practice, can you tell me more? That's one thing, but like often this is, let's say, only the start, and then you need to dig a bit deeper. So this is why we also propose the service of peer reviews. So in a peer review, let's say if there's a real need, we can organize a peer review, meaning that our experts, interdisciplinary experts, they will help you in identifying the most relevant peers that can come from all over Europe, and they will help you to organize a peer review in your region on the spots, bring the people together for, 2 days more or less. Really, like, you can show them, okay, that's what we're having, this is what we're struggling with, these are my questions, and really in-depth discussion and exchange, so that people can solve the struggles. So if you're interested in this, now maybe beyond Cismob or like after Cismob, that's always something you can keep in mind, and of course everyone can apply to this. And then last but not least, the policy learning platform is also another track. So we have our expert that do further analysis, they write policy briefs, they organize also online events and also physical events. So we have, I think, later this month we have a workshop in Brussels talking about sustainable city development. So if you're interested in this, you're also welcome to sign up. And you can also sign up now for the newsletter just to make sure that you do not miss, let's say, the latest evolutions on the policy learning platform. So these are the projects. We will now talk a little bit about the results of Cismob and put them in context. So you can see on the map where the partners in the local economy projects come from. So we see many countries, many regions covered. If you look a little bit deeper, what are the 60 projects approved under the low carbon economy, what they are talking about. We have put them together into, let's say, 4 main clusters. One is the energy efficiency, one is the low carbon strategies, let's say, as a whole, like a more holistic approach. And then we have a couple of projects, so 9 projects that deal with renewable energies, different renewable energies. And then we have a pretty huge group, 26 out of the 60 projects that deal with sustainable transport. And Cismob is one of them. Yeah. So I also know that Cismob was in contact with some of the projects that I mentioned here. The list is not complete. If you want to see the full list, you can go on the website of the program and find it there. What's interesting to see, even sustainable mobility is still quite a vast topic. So we have projects that deal with sustainable urban mobility. Then we have those projects that look more into we have this this link between the urban and then the peri-urban areas. We have projects that look into ICT technologies, as Cismob. We have projects that look more into intermodality or different mobility modes. So we have projects that look particularly into cycling or walking modes as part of urban mobility, and so on. So we all know that even sustainable mobility, it's a huge challenge. There's many layers, many levels, and we have maybe not all, but pretty much of them covered here. Electric mobility. We have projects that look particularly into mobility linked to, it's just a quick overview. If you're interested, you can learn more about all these projects on the program website. So now it's also true that Cismob was approved in the first call and of the program, and it's not always easy to be the first one. So actually, it's our way to also, let's say, highlight the massive work done by Cismob and the other first projects. You were the first one that had to deal with action plans of the 2 phases implementation, because in the past program that was not exactly the case. It's not always easy, but I think you did a good job. So I will not, let's say, talk about the results of the project so much, because honestly I think there's people from the different regions in the room, and you're far well better situated to do so. But nevertheless, I had to look at the progress report that the lead partner was sending to us in the past. And there were already some interesting results, some interesting policy changes highlighted. One example is from the central region, central Portugal region, where we could really see that thanks to the different good practices that were discussed in the project, and thanks to the exchange of experience, actually the partners managed to get in touch with the managing authority and try to take into account the importance of ICT when it comes to mobility projects. That managing authority now will also look more into this when they're selecting the projects. So that's just one example, and I'm sure that someone's going to explain better than I can do it. So we have also more examples that comes from the Agda municipality, where they approved new projects, but also the approval of the new project was also highly influenced to different experience and good practices. In particular, the one from Sweden, from the advisory department on growing bikes, that influenced the shaping of this project. And all the regions have interesting examples, and we will hear about it later. That's the example from Romania. They were looking in particular into this integrated ticketing system, which is a huge challenge. I think they also learned from Sweden. So beyond the results as such, I also want to thank you. Thank you all. Cismob project, in particular the lead partner, team of the University of Aveiro. It was a great cooperation so far. You've been very active also on the program level. You were the first project, to submit a pilot action, and I have to say I was pretty excited about it. It's really interesting. I also think we're going to hear more about it, but the idea was to really find out how passengers would like to be informed about real-time information Would they prefer a panel on the bus stop? Would they prefer an app? How would they use it? Like, how are the preferences when we look into the different user profiles and so on? So very interesting work undertaken here, and I'm really curious to hear more about it. Yeah, and then, I mean, yeah, it was a good opportunity for us then to invite Georgia to our annual event in 2018, where he was explaining to other projects, how to, let's say, build a pilot action, because also other projects were interested in this. Yeah, Cismob was also participating in the platform events. We had this event last year in Manchester where we talked about sustainable mobility, where they shared some good practices. Yeah, they were very successful and very active when it comes to the dissemination work of the project. Georgia mentioned that they were nominated for the Region Stars Award, so one of the big awards that the European Commission is giving to cooperation projects. Yeah, 9 good practices identified, some of them featured on the good practice database of the platform. Also some interesting synergies and crossovers with other projects. So there's a lot of, let's say, things that are not always easy to grasp. From the program side, we have our indicators because we have to measure the results, but that's not always very easy to do. So it's also very important today to talk about it. And yeah, I invite you all to tell us what you learned, what you took out of the project. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Now you may think, wow, such an amazing program, so many opportunities, but you also know that the cohesion policy is linked to the European multi-annual budget, which runs for 7 years. And well, from our side, the funds are pretty much committed now, so we're not planning to launch any new call for proposals. Officially, the program ends in 2020, but I mean, that's not true because we still approve projects in 2019, and by the time they wrap up, obviously the program is going to last a little longer. Sorry. But yeah, of course, we are now all very curious to see what's going to happen in the future. So the good news is that there will be most likely a new program, a new Europe program, let's say. When we look into the in the initial proposal from the European Commission, the interregional exchange experience, so this is what we're doing, Interreg, was not mentioned. Then thanks to different, let's say, stakeholders, thanks to some lobbying and so on, thanks to the Council and the European Parliament, eventually the program, or the idea of interregional exchange of experience, was included in the draft regulations. So we are now pretty confident that we're going to stay there, and interregional exchange of experience is recognized by all the players. But of course now the question is what will be the budget behind it, and for this unfortunately I don't have any answer yet. I know that the budget is still under negotiation. The regulations about the cooperation programs are now in the trilogue, so it's a Parliament and the Council. Obviously, I mean, Brexit, I think it's also delaying certain decisions. So we probably won't know about the budget before the second semester of 2020. But again, that's also an invitation to you. If you know representatives of your country in the Parliament, in the Council, you can tell them about Cismob, about Interreg Europe. If you're convinced that we're doing good stuff and that we should have a good budget in the future programming period, well, you're more than welcome to speak on behalf of the program, and lobby for us. That's pretty much it from my side. Thanks for your attention, and I'm around also for questions, and I will be here for the full day if you will talk to me. Thank you.
Now we can do a break for 35 minutes, more or less, until 11:25. We have a coffee break outside for you. I hope you enjoy it.
Então, despediu-me sobre a impressão final.
Senão depois nos dizem que nós somos não, na nele diz que eu percebia e as raias são bem
Não é só.
são estranhos. Eu estava a olhar aqui para os personagens. Eu confesso que aqui a minha vida já bonito, mais.
Não seja assim.
Isto a gente sabe.
Este aqui é o Gilberto. É só giro. Eu sou suíço.
Já fui mais.
o planeamento.
Mr. Jorge Bandeira, talking about the impacts in the central region.
Hello, good morning again. Now we are moving for the most interesting part, which is present some achievements of the project. The program is divided in four sections. In the morning we will talk about Central Region. Then in the afternoon we move to Stockholm. They have no policy instrument, but they will explain the importance of being advisor partner in the consortium. Then you move to Extremadura and Romania. Then you have a panel discussion at the end. So, in terms of Central Region, let's have a quick overview of some characteristics of that region. Has a total population of 2,300,000 inhabitants. It represents approximately 1/3 of the population and area of Portugal, with a density of 75 inhabitants per square meter, most of them located in the west regions. We have already sustainable urban mobility plans at NUT level 3 for all this intermunicipal level. The region is based on polycentric urban structure. We have not a metropolitan or big cities. We have just one city with 1,000 inhabitants, which is Coimbra. Then we have more three medium-sized cities: Leiria, Aveiro, and Viseu, and a lot of small cities, most located in the west part. Also characteristic is that low density urban development, even in the bigger cities like Aveiro. You can see these disorganized territories with many roads but low density building areas, which makes very difficult the efficiency of public transport. For instance, you can see that the private car is used on 70% of commuting trips in Central Region, which is a very high value, even higher than in Portugal, which is already a high value. The baseline assessment report, as I told you in the beginning, we made a characterization and a SWOT analysis, a brief SWOT analysis of the major strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. I will just summarize some of them. In terms of strengths, in Central Region, you have a very good road network, perhaps too good in terms of motorways and in the main axis in the west coast. You have some bike sharing systems. Most of them are planned, not operating yet, but there is the political will to develop these bike sharing systems. We have innovative projects like the new transport on demand in low density areas, like this free bus in Médio-Tejo region. You have good primary connections, primary but not the secondary. There is a big difference between the main X north-south and the remaining connections. As I told you, there is sustainable urban mobility plans developed for all intermunicipal areas. You have strong research units in the area of transport, ICT, environmental engineering, either in Coimbra, in Aveiro, or even in Leiria. In the universities, there is a strong innovation in research capabilities in the region. We also have a very big bicycle industry cluster, mostly located in the city of Aveiro, who are one of the biggest sporting regions in Europe for the bicycles. In terms of opportunities and the potential to improve the current situation, you have high potential for model transfer, since you have a very model share on private cars. You have potential to improve this. High qualified staff in institutions in terms of urban planning, transport, environmental. And also you have a strong commitment of the regional authorities, namely the CCDR, committed to CO2 reduction. In terms of weakness, again, I will mention, I think it's very critical, the urban sprawl in poor urban planning in suburban areas, like these examples of streets with very poor conditions for walking, very low density areas which hinders the efficiency of public transport. We have lack of intermodal, physical and soft platforms. There is no integrated ticket systems for different modes in the regions. There is also, it's improving, but there is also a lot of quality of information on public transport. It's terrible if you want to see the timetables for a bus. Yeah, I'm seeing Brian is confirming that it's very difficult to, even in Google Maps, it's very difficult to find information on public transport. You have inefficient road pricing schemes. I told you that we have good motorways, but then the alternatives are not good in terms of safety and even for quality of life for people that live in that roads. Curiously, I put this picture, this slide is from 2017. I put this picture to illustrate the problem of very heavy traffic and very high traffic volumes crossing these roads because the alternative is a paved motorway. And I saw last Monday that this house, I saw in the newspaper that this house doesn't exist anymore because a car crashed into that house here. And it's a real problem of road safety and quality of life for air pollution and noise and vibration. It's real critical. Also some threats, like the vice-rector said, the aging of the population in that areas near the border with Spain. There is the problem of desertification, then comes the problem of forest fires and the abandoned territories, which leads to also a lack of demand for services and brings more inefficiency. And you can see there is a very unbalanced flows between the west part and the east part of the region. So after we identified the main problems, we also wanted to learn in the cooperation in the Cismob project what are the best practices that can improve the region to overcome these problems. So this basically was the process of building the action plan. By the identification of best practice and cooperation outcomes, we select a set of good practices that can be implemented in the region. Then we, with several meetings with the managing authority, the Commission for Development of Central Region, we validated some potential measures that can be supported by the policy instrument of Operational Program 2020, Central 2020. Then, after you make the survey with stakeholders to select what were the best practices and what they prefer and what they consider most efficient, Then we have selected the best practice and developed the action plan in the first phase, and then we are in the second phase, in the phase of implementation and monitoring of the implementation. The action plan has three main pillars. The promotion of smart and connected mobility, for instance, the promotion of test beds for new forms of mobility, connected mobility, autonomous vehicles, all these type of new forms of mobility can be used to solve the environmental problems in the region. The improving of quality of cycling, not just promoting the cycle lanes or bike sharing systems, but how data and technology, integrated ticket systems and mobility service can be used to improve the modal share of these areas. And then the third pillar, improving the quality of information of public transport, which was identified as a critical gap, a critical weakness in the region. These two pillars are being implemented by dissemination. We disseminate this action plan to the newsletter, to the stakeholders of the region in order to motivate them to submit more projects in this area. We also talk and discuss it with the Central Region, CCDR, the Managing Authority, new ways to evaluate the projects and give higher visibility to these projects focused on ICT. And also for this you have pilot action that I will summarize later. In terms of better management and evaluation of new criteria to evaluate new projects submitted to Central 2020, we suggest and we were accepted this new criteria of prioritizing the investments that use road accident data to support new road cycle lanes. It's not just build cycle lanes just for building, but it matters the location and where they are being implemented. Adjusted the criteria for relative reduction of carbon emissions. At the first stage, we observed that the targets were too high. It was quite unrealistic, and then it was a problem for projects we are based in ICT to achieve these targets. You are in a region that have a lot of water and water transport, so we can include the boats in these integrated systems. Also new criteria toward projects that include open data platforms and real-time information systems, which is a critical factor for develop projects in this area. And also include an evaluation bonus for projects involving senior citizen assistive technology, including alerts, information for vulnerable users, or simplified and or passive ticket systems to people. And for instance, it's very difficult to find what is the best ticket or the best plan, monthly plan, and this can be done automatically. And it's a huge improvement for these people. Regarding the pilot action about real-time information in public transport, it was work done by University of Aveiro and Stockholm University within the mechanical engineering department and the electronic and telecommunications department, and also by the Stockholm University, the eGov lab. This started with the identification of several good practices. The first one, it was Traffic Lab, which was a public platform in Stockholm and in Sweden that coordinates all the information and data it's made available for the public to generate new apps in new forms of. There are, based on this platform, there were created hundreds of applications to support the usage of public transport. Also a similar but smaller, but even a good example of open data in Cassius. Both these first two were approaches, decentralized approaches, where the information is disseminated towards the public in a decentralized way. In a different approach, you have the classic centralized approach, public transport management systems, where the information is mostly provided in the bus stops or transport interfaces. There was a lot of discussion in stakeholder meetings what is the best approach to disseminate information in real time in the central region. But there was a different trade-offs among the population, and you create this project to improve the implementation of inspiring practice, considering the demographic and socio-economic context of central region. The objective is to enable better governance, new evaluation criteria, social impacts. You want to provide new forms of ICT that is most valued, evaluated by citizens, what are the most useful platforms for different kinds of segments of the population. Of course, give higher visibility to the project, and also increase the interest of regional players in replicating this good practice in the region, and also with the submission of more projects with this type of systems. So the idea was to, very basic, to include GPS, GNS, or GPS, the tracker in basis, which was developed in the IT department here in the university. This information goes to a cloud that is managed, is disseminated in bus stops, in applications for smartphones and desktops. We also considered the conventional calls or cell, but it wasn't evaluated positively in the survey, so we didn't consider that. And implement this pilot in two regions, in Cantanhede, with the operator Urbin. It consists only one bus, but with 8 lines. It's with just 10,000 passengers per year, but it's important way of improving the accessibility of the city of Cantanhede and the small towns that are near the city, which is a city between Aveiro and Coimbra. And we also wanted to test this project in inter-regional route. This route connects the city of Coimbra to Penacova, to a town in the municipality of Penacova, which is Paradela. Is a route that uses 5 buses every day. It is just one line, but the demand is considerably higher. Is 100,000 passengers per year. At the beginning, we conducted a stated preferences survey. The objective was to evaluate which platforms and type of information on public transport are preferable among different segments of the population. The target population was citizens from Stockholm. When they have already the 2 types of information available, centralized in bus stops and decentralized in apps. The central region, Aveiro, Cantanhede, and Penacova and Coimbra. In Cantanhede and Penacova there is any kind of information. In Coimbra, at the time of the surveys, there was only the centralized information in bus stops, Now there is already applications for the municipal fleet. The universe were 700 respondents, maybe both online and in person. You consider as independent variables the gender, the income, if the operative system of the mobile phone, if it is Android or iOS or other, and of course the age and the current travel behavior, if they put people use public transport or not. In terms of results, I just focus on the Portuguese case first. In the first three, you can see four different segments of the population, 13 to 24, 24-55, and over 55, in locations that are just have panels as information. You can see that for young and adults people, both the panels and apps are the most favorite solutions, but for older population, more than 55, the panels are of much more appointed solution as the solution, the better solution for the youngest population. But you can see for the older population of these cities, since they don't know this kind of solution, it's not is less rating. There's a less rating than in Coimbra, that it's much more pointed as useful that in that areas that they don't know. If you include the respondents from Sweden or Stockholm, where they have both kinds of information, centralized and decentralized, you can see that the app is still the most favorable solution, or the most useful considered solution for the younger population. But curiously, for the old population, it was the desktop, the web desktop solutions that they consider more useful. Also, there are some remarks on the surveys about the quality of information. People complain sometimes about the quality of information that is provided, and maybe this kind of web desktop solutions that people with more time to see at home what is the best solution. And you can see the panels in Stockholm are not so well seen for the oldest population. But overall, the apps, it's the most best valued solution for young population. The panels for older population, and in Aveiro and in Stockholm, it's the web solutions. So we for evaluating this in Central Region, we installed 2 panels in 2 small cities. The first one, it was in the city of Cantanhede, in the city center, which is the stop with higher demand. And we also installed here in the town of Roxo. It's a very small town in the line Coimbra-Paradela, but it's the stop with higher demand. This is the location of the bus stop in Cantanhede. You can see it's a small city around 10,000 people. Also here is the location of Paradela. You can see this is Coimbra. This is Paradela, which is in the top of the mountain at 500 meters. But it's quite interesting case study, because the buses have to cross all the city center to go to the town, which sometimes you get some congestion in the city center and there is delays. Also, the road in that mountain is difficult, mainly in winter. The bus is delayed or not. This is the satellite image of Google Earth from this town of Rocho. This is the road to Coimbra, and the panel is installed in this church in the middle of the town. We also, the IT department, the College for IT department, developed an application for these two case studies for Cantanhede and Coimbra Penacova. It's composed of a map where you can see in real time where are the buses, and also have timetables, and you can see in real time what are the next buses to see. And here, if there is a delay, the application says that it's delayed for 3 or 4 minutes. And also, so after we completed the pilot action, we started to develop a new survey, a revealed professor survey, to see what platform the people knows now, and they consider more useful. Here again, and after people have contact with both platforms, can see for the youngest population, the application was considered the most useful platform. Although the panel was also well classified from the scale of 0 to 5, this is the average. For the people between 24 and 55, all the solutions were well classified, but the app is still the most wanted solution. Also the web is not so well classified, but it was difficult to show during the surveys the web desktop, so it might be opposed to these lower values for the web platform. But for the oldest population, the panel was again the most wanted solution, the most useful solution to these people. And now these are results from Cantanhede that didn't well, before they didn't know the panel, they didn't classify it well, but now it has a higher ranking. In terms of the information that is available on the application, there is the bus stop, the application map, the app timetable, and the application overall. You can see that it has very high values of usefulness for all kind of population. The map is where people can see the bus in real time. To increase the number of respondents, mainly the older population in Central Region, but this are our main conclusions. Smartphone dissemination is the most voted solution by people from 17 to 55 in Portugal, and also high qualification levels. Panels are the second most appreciated solution by people until 55, and the most appreciated by people over 55 in every case studies. Web desktop solutions are well appreciated, but in locations where this kind of information is available, like in Stockholm, you cannot be sure about these results in Portugal. Based on the whole project and the difficulties that we face to implement the pilot, we conclude that it is very important to establish clear rules in the specifications of public transport tendering for providing these systems. This includes standard formats and data, timetables, position, etc. All fleet needs to have these GPS trackers. There was a strong commitment of the operator in the line Paradela Coimbra to put the GPS in the buses. We developed 5 GPS for them, but at the end, as the buses are always changing, it's difficult to keep all trucks, all buses with GNSS. And what happens now, it is when the bus is communicating, we are considering this to make a delay. When there is, we just use the timetable information. But this to be work properly must be implemented at a larger scale, of course. In terms of regional conclusions of the project and here in Central Region, I think the main one is cooperation works. At least I saw a strong motivation of the majority of stakeholders and a very strong motivation of the managing authority. I also see Dr. Bernard taking notes of our events. I think they were quite interested and they wanted to learn, and we also learned with the CCDR. I think this is can be said by all partners. It's important to adapt technology to socio-economic context. For instance, the quality of information for buses. Maybe you just not need to consider what are the buses that are in the fancy zones of the city to put a panel. Maybe the panel is more useful in the low density areas or in areas with average age of the population is higher and they cannot see the smartphone, or they have no capabilities to see the information in real time. So I think a major conclusion that at least preliminary surveys of the socioeconomic characteristics of the population must be done. We also see that unrealistic targets of the policy instruments at the program level leads to unrealistic assumptions of the projects and the proposals where they are done. And at the end, I'm afraid that there is a real disappointment because it's not achievable with the funding and the type of projects to achieve these results. For instance, I think one common assumption that is wrong, it's assumed that, for instance, a new passenger in a bus will reduce the same amount of emissions by using the car, or a new kilometers in the bike sharing systems. It's all done by people that came out from the cars, or they came out from the cars to using this. So based on the literature, also you can, in the previous experiences, you see that it's very easy to people move from walking to bus, to bicycle, to the scooters. It's quite easy to have some modal transfer between these modes, but it's quite challenging to move from car to these modes. So at the end, there is some examples that in a best case scenario in cities, for instance in the US, that the public transport is very low, that the rate of people that give up the car for this kind of modes is 20%. This is the best case. In the most typical cases, is 2%. So it's an assumption that must be taken into account in the projects to don't get disappointed at the end of the programs. Also, you see fancy policies on smart city digitalizations must be consistent with policies to discourage the use of individual transport. From our experience, it's quite easy to convince policymakers in support this kind of ICT smart cities. but at the end, if they are building either new roads or new parking lots in city centers, it's completely useful. And you have a lot of examples, even in this region. Thank you. If you have any questions, or you
If
can.
you have any questions? Yeah.
George, just to confirm that what you brought up there is confirmed in the UK and other European projects. In the WISE trip and enhanced WISE trip, looking at journey planners for the whole of Europe, it showed that once you get over 55, most people are wearing glasses. And the difficulty, and also have problems maybe with arthritis, for working smartphones. So the panels become important because it's just a case that many people don't wear glasses when they go out because they've got no place to put them. And as we move towards consistent delivery, companies like Move It, who are providing public transport information globally, becomes a platform where it's consistent in every place that you go. We need to educate the people on how to use the apps and how to use the systems.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And for every new startup company that comes out with a scooter or a bike hire, only 2% of the companies last more than 2 years. So investment is a big problem as well. And again, coming back to training, we have to train people how to use the scooters. This is, but it's every project coming back with the same results, which is good in one way, because there's so many opportunities. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Just one more question because we have little time. If you want to put just one more question? No? Okay. Then we can proceed maybe. With Célia Laranjeira, please, from the municipality of Aveiro.
So, good morning everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you so much for coming to Aveiro. I don't know, but maybe this will be our last conference, transnational conference. Hopefully other projects, other ideas will come further. Hopefully we will have Interact to challenge us to make new partnerships and develop new projects maybe in other areas like circular economy, environment, sustainable mobility. There's so much that we have learned also with this project, Cismob, and I think it's the time. I have here the name of some of the colleagues in the municipality of Agda who developed it, helped develop this project, and of course I would like to thank all of them. I'm just here representing the whole staff that developed work during these years, and of course it's time to thank the University of Aveiro that has first challenged us to come abroad, and also like Brenna presented, we started, oh my god, what we are going to do, and now thank God we were on this project. And thank you so much to all of you, because we have learned so much in these past times. First of all, an overview. The challenge made to Agda was to speak a little bit about what we are doing in decarbon the city and how this process with what we have learned with Cismob. But of course I would have to bring a picture of our beautiful city, our colorful city, one of the most colorful in the world. Now we no longer have these colorful umbrellas, but if you stay a few more days you will see the Christmas umbrellas that are also very nice. So we are located, as George says, on the center region of Portugal. Agda is one of the largest municipalities of Aveiro region in what concerns to area. We have about 335 square kilometers of area, dispersed territorial with huge problems of mobility, namely in the rural areas of the inside of the municipality. As George already spoke about, our challenge was to look a little bit and think and rethink about our municipal strategy, sustainable mobility strategy for the municipality. So we have updated that work that we already had developed with the introduction of a few actions that we have seen on some of the partners that we could bring to our reality. Also updated our mobility plan because some of the actions have already been developed but not been monitored. I think that's one major concern because sometimes we do plans, we develop the plans, but we forget, we concentrate on the operation of the plans, of the actions, but sometimes we forget about the monitoring. That is so much important when you go further and when you review that plan, and it was something that we did with this project. I stole from George this slide because it shows some of the travel that we have been done, some of the journey that we have been done in these years, and the learn exchange that we have with other partners. Of course, we also met in Agda to talk about sustainable mobility, to see what is being done here in the region, and of course also the time to thank, I think it's the thanking session, also the time to thank our stakeholders and all of those who came abroad this Cismob challenge. And also help us to present to our partners, to other countries, what we do best in Portugal and in our region, but also what we don't do so much. And you gave us some amazing ideas in order to improve it. So this was some brief images about the meeting that was held in Agda. And we also have the opportunity to go abroad and learn a little bit about what is being done. George already spoke about Stockholm University, about Traffic Lab and the eGov Lab, and that was something that we brought, that experience, the project, the technology, the technological development. It was something that we tried to bring to Agda and to our projects. And that's where we are now. We are in a project for a low carbon city. It's called Agda Smart City Lab. So it's a living lab for development of new solutions in order to accomplish the CO2 reduction in several, for example, sectors like energy, like mobility. And it's a project that is also financed by the Portuguese Fund of Environment, because there's no plan B, and we are already talking about COP25 that will be held in Madrid in a few days, but this image is from COP21. There's no plan B, so we must act local, think global, because all of us will be affected by the climate change. And earlier I was speaking with our colleagues, and I was telling, oh, it's raining a lot in Portugal, but okay, it's normal to rain in Portugal at this time, but maybe it's not normal to have 24 degrees in Romania at this time. So this is climate change. So this is global, but what can we do? We can act local. And that was something that this project, Cismob, financed by Interreg, also helped us to improve. So this is quite a large definition of what we are doing with our Agda Smart City Lab, the development of the new technology in order to face the challenge that the community, the citizens, the companies have to face today. So what in the practical, what we are doing, we are implementing solutions with the companies and with the citizens in order to help them to have a better day-to-day life, and of course in order to reduce our carbon footprint and our energy. So we have, sorry, this is in Portuguese, we have a lot of things going on, a lot of projects that we are implementing in buildings, in water efficiency, in mobility, to promote a more sustainable mobility, promoting public awareness, and of course the involvement of all society. So I brought here some of the images of the actions that we have already implemented, and you will see it how they are connected with Cismob and what we have learned. So this is a measure that we implemented in the circular economy and environment. We implemented 20 sensors, smart sensors, for waste in order to help us to better manage the waste collecting system. This is a new technology, a low-run technology that we are developing with one of the partners. I brought this because I think it gave us quite a complicated map of the challenges that we are facing in the office, because we are not communicator experts, so this is very difficult to operate, and sometimes some of the solutions that we implement on field are quite challenging, and we need to bring a lot of partners and a lot of knowledge together. So that's why all of these projects are so important, because some of these solutions are already being developed and already tested and implemented in other territories, and it's easier when we have a network of partners like you to make a phone call, to make the conference call, and please help us, guys, we are in trouble. Regarding mobility, we had electric vehicles already implemented. We have electric e-bikes. We have an electric bike sharing system. But we wanted to go further, so we implemented these 21 emission reducers. Sorry, I have their misspelled word. So we implemented emission reducers in 21 vehicles of our municipal fleet in order to achieve reductions of maybe 80% on CO2, on greenhouse gases, but also the consumption of fuel in about 30%. So we are having the first results. I can already tell you that we are not on 30%, but we are getting there. Also implemented, this is a long-term strategy that we have been developing from a few years, and we will keep on developing regarding energy efficiency, because we are changing our public lighting and also improving our energy efficiency in our public buildings. This is one of that is financed. We have already finished it, the implementation. It's a complete network of public lighting by LED technology, even decorative lighting of the municipal buildings with some major consumptions. So this technology will help us to achieve almost 40% on the reduction of CO2, on the consumption of energy. Another one, this is a partnership that we had with the fire department, with the humanitarian association, where we implemented the units for self-consumption production units. So this we on the first when we started the project, we were planning to put these units someplace else, but when we started, we had here in Portugal major problems with forest fires, and the forest department had crossed some difficulties. So we managed to combine the project and help the fire department to reduce their energy consumption and of course their energy bill, as they will be able to save something like 5,000 euros per year with the implementation of this project. It's already finished also. And of course we come to Cismob and how we have been inspired. In this project, in the Agri Smart City Lab, we have to implement connected bikes. We are trying to develop also this with a mobile app that will allow users to have a more user efficiency of the e-bikes. They can book the e-bikes by using their smartphones, that app. And of course, we think it was very interesting that, and we saw the experience in Stockholm. They have environmental sensors installed on the e-bikes. So when we're crossing the CO2 among other information that could be collected by the e-bikes. So this is not yet on field. We are working with a local company that has implemented our network of environmental sensors in the municipality of Agda, and they are developing a prototype in order to be implemented in our e-bikes that already have been prepared to take the kit of the environmental sensors. And of course, all that project that I showed you earlier and the e-bikes will communicate with the smart city platform and an app. That platform will allow us to aggregate the different elements of the city, the parking system, the waste management, the energy production and the energy consumption of all that area that I've shown you, and it's all together here in an open data platform for the citizens to. It's online right now. This was a print screen made last night, so you can see it's dark. It's where we have the collection of all the information from the different sensors that have all the different smart sensors that are implemented abroad the municipality. Here we have the information of some of the sensors that have already been implementing during this decarb project, Agda Smart City Lab, but also some other sensors that are implemented in the city that also communicate with this platform. And of course we are also developing, this was inspired in a platform that we see in one of the staff exchange, and of course we also want to develop the app where citizens don't need to go on online and on the website to see the platform, but also they can use an app and get some push-up notifications when, for example, you have, when you have an CO2 alert, when you have, for example, high risk of fire, all the information that the municipality think it's useful to their users. If we have a seminar and workshop regarding some thematic area, they have that information in their hands. So of course, I think all the success of the projects is of course all the partnerships, all the change of knowledge that we promote between us partners, between us entities abroad, not only here in Portugal, but of course the involvement of our communities, the involvement of our citizens, but also the involvement of our knowledge communities, the university, the research institutes, but also the companies and the enterprises that develop the solutions and the technology. So I think this was our challenge to speak to you about what was Cismob to us and how we are working in order to become a low carbon city and how we have earned something about Cismob. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now we can go on to Renato, please, from Centro Regional Coordination and Development Commission.
Bom dia a todos. Claro, percebo que isto só vai ser entendido por alguns de vocês e, portanto, a partir deste momento eu vou tentar falar outra língua, que é uma coisa dificílima, porque tentar falar outra língua, daquilo que eu ouvi até hoje, eu deveria pedir à minha antecessora, à Célia, para vir falar esta língua, que era um inglês, enfim, que me soava bem, que me soava perfeito. Now I'm going to talk to you in English. Good morning to everyone, and welcome here, and I, of course, appreciate the way our George can manage with us, you that came from abroad, and with us that we came from Portugal, and from the central region, and from the city nearby. Of course, I should say, first of all, two things. First, I have not the capacity, the ability of draw things like George Van Dyke. For instance, to see a finger with lights like a saint, I am not able to draw. To see an old man with no hair on his head, I am not able to draw it. Second, I am not able to talk in the language of Shakespeare as Celia does. So, you have a small guy, not well prepared to speak in English, so I'm excused for things that went wrong. And last, we are in a room where in the walls are pictures of so many people, politicians, writers, academics, singers, architects, and so on. So it's, how can I say and how can I put it? We are being surveyed by them. So it's difficult when we have such figures on the walls to say something, because they do things much better than we are able. So it's a dialogue where they won, and I'm defeated already. Even saying nothing, I am defeated already, because they have already won. Is that why they are there? And I'm not, of course, some of them are already died, but I'm living. So what can I say about our program, regional operation program of Central Region? How we touch this. I should put this picture. Of course, as you can see, no draw there, only letters and words and so on. I put there things that in national legislation we are able to support. So when we have the European Regional Fund in this regional operational program, for those things of mobility, we are able only to support some things. You can see there 3 of those kinds that we are able to support. So first of all things that are going to link it to ticketing. Second one, all things that are linked to real-time information. Things that are linked to the use of bicycles. Things, I'm sorry. As you can see, even those things are too much for that kind of interface networks we are able to support also. And when in our cities the local powers want to straighten some lines and some channels, we can also support that. As you can see, I focus. Those two things are linked with the thematic that the project, Cismob project, has in mind. And of course, in the region, we have some projects that came from that kind of preoccupation. Of course, I put there a word, a very important word, PAMUS. It's a specificity of Portuguese rules, because it's not a sum, it derives from a sum, and all things that we are able to support must be previewed on that kind of plans. We are not able to support anything that are not previewed on that kind of plan. But of course, it's some kind of specific of us, and it has been developed at nut street level. I should say that the only nut street level at central region that first of all began to think and to deal with these things of mobility was just the nut streets of region Aveiro, at Aveiro. So what has been done with the money then that some figures to not to be too long. The projects that at this moment we have approved, almost 1/4 of them are related to those kinds of things that we put, that I marked in the first picture that I put there. So what we have observed in the program is that the municipalities, and it owns the municipalities that are our clients, municipalities have done a big effort in introduce new technologies of communication in the way they deal with mobility. In the first phase of the application of the regional program, is not the same nowadays, today. Probably they are not so easy to implement and so on, probably that, but it's something that our municipalities in the central region have been not so strong nowadays that in 3 or 4 years ago. The second way, of course, is those are things that are really already done and so on. This, as you can see, is projects that we have at this moment and they are not approved, and you can see those kind of projects that are linked to the new technologies of communication and information are not so strong in the overall of the projects that we have. The second thing, it's very important and very interesting that we have the exchange of Cismob project, came from this document. Our colleague one day passes through my office, walked inside the door and put this document on my table. And I began to read it. Of course it's in English, so probably I read not so good and I read not so well. But from the document, there is something that I know very, very important. And of course, he had already talked about it. That is that we have some targets very high, very, very high. So what we have done is that the selection criteria of the projects have some targets very, very, very unrealistic. So, looking at the work that George put on my desk, we are talking inside the team and so on and say, oh, okay, they know what they have done, so they are right, we are wrong. And we change. We have changed. As you can see, it's a big change. on that kind of selection criteria, it's in fact a big change. So, Cismob can use us, seeing what we have done in some kind of project, some kind of real-time information. For instance, we have a big project, more than one, but one big project that has been working very well, and I think. So we learn with the best. At the end, it's the end. I have not too much to say, so the end. I put this figure here. Why should I force this? Of course, for one thing, because it's something that I call, in English terms, my BS model. Why BS model? Because in the picture, I can see immediately that I belong to that picture. Of course, it's a belonging, it's a bit far away, nearby the Atlantic Sea. But the first thing, I saw that picture and I belong to it. And I can imagine that almost of you, looking at that picture, who could imagine that they belong to that picture. So the B of my BS model. Second one, there are some things there at green, dark green, and so on, blue one, and so on. What that does mean, sharing. So, what's important on this law is that model, B, belonging, S, sharing. And why that? Because I remember always a thought of a Portuguese writer when he wrote something like that. The more important is not the bread. The more important is the dream. The dreams we have. And if we have no dreams, no nightmares, of course. If we have no dreams, we should be dying. Thank you very much. Enjoy yourself in Aveiro and keep the good things that we have here. Profit of sharing those good things that in Aveiro city we have. Thank you very much.
So now we are ready to go to lunch, okay? If you have any questions, okay. He said if you have any questions, you can also ask him during lunch. So now we are ready for it.
No completo. We have to go.
Okay, so we have to go together. Okay, to Complexo Pedagógico. We'll wait outside and then we'll go all together today until 2 o'clock. Okay. Thank you. Yes. I will have to go. If you want, you can leave your things here because.